a pacer, so bear with me. It's not nerves, it's if otherwise I'll seize. Can you hear me okay? I don't know. I'll seize and you'll have to move me with a wheelbarrow. So, Whoopi Goldberg said, we're here for a reason. I believe a bit of that reason is to throw little torches out to lead people through the dark. I believe that. I believe that now. I didn't for most of my life. I believed that I was fat, I was ugly, I was worthless. And the reason I believed those things is because that's what I was frequently told. I grew up in a family that had little love for me at all, and that was immediate and extended. I'd frequently been told that I was too clever for my own good. You're far too stupid. There was no consistency. I was constantly told I had no purpose unless I was looking after my siblings, both by birth and foster. So as I grew up, things weren't happy. We moved a lot. My dad's hobby was buying derelict houses. We'd move to a derelict house, he'd do it up, it would be beautiful. We had jacuzzis and things like that. Then we'd move to another derelict house using buckets for toilets. So I was always the new girl at school. But that suited me because that meant I didn't ever have time to make friends. Because if they made friends with me, they'd realise I was awful. I was fat, I was ugly, I was worthless. So it suited me. It was horrible at times. I always felt lonely, but it suited the fact that no one could get to know me. I moved away from home as soon as I could, understandably. And although life wasn't perfect, I didn't like who I was. I didn't know how to like who I was. At least I was away from my family, apart from coming back to visit every now and then. Then sadly I worked for an awful family. I was a nanny. And they bullied me. They were awful. And I had to return back to my hometown, back on the south coast. And it was horrible. Hoping that my mum would treat me as an adult. Instead, she told me again, you're useless, you can't keep a job. I'd lived away from home for 15 years, so I'd been looking after myself. But still, those messages, you're useless, you cannot do anything. So my health deteriorated, both mentally and physically. Now, I was born with a disability. I was born with no skin on my feet and no skin on my bottom. But, again, because no one cared enough, I didn't get taken to doctors. So I wasn't diagnosed until I was 28 with a rare genetic skin condition called EB, epidermolysa bullosa, that's what I call it. And so that's caused a lot of damage in my body. So my health had also deteriorated physically. I was in pain all the time, I could barely stand, and I broke. And I had the second breakdown of my life. And I hit a stage, and it was, I have three options. I stay the same. Life wasn't worth living. I end things. And that was a serious contemplation. Now, those of you that know me know that I am a crazy cat lady, and thankfully I've just got a kitten. And I committed to having her until she died. So, she's on my arm. So I stayed, and I thought, well, I've come close to death now, so nothing else is going to kill me. I can challenge myself with anything, and there's always a nunnery in the Himalayas, if it gets that bad. So I started saying yes to things. I love musicals, I love the 50s style. I was watching Singing in the Rain. There's a hoofer scene, and Gene Kelly goes off, does the want to dance, want to sing song, and the word burlesque flashed up on the screen. I wonder if anyone still does that. So I looked it up. Not only did they still do it, there was a growing group of people doing it, and there was a class near me. I'd always loved to dance, but I was told no one would want to look at you dancing, you fat ugly thing, so I'd only ever dance in private. What did they do to me? They couldn't kill me. I went. I expected to be awful, but I went. I was good. And then I got to, then there was a woman in the class. She said, I want to put on class. I want to put on a show. I said, can you help? I said, I'm happy to help. I like organising things. You've got to perform. No. I could not even cope with people singing me happy birthday because that meant people had to look at me. And I was so paranoid about how I looked that I was convinced people looked at me in the street thinking she's too scary for small children to look at. She needs to go home and hide. Which is ridiculous. I worked with small children and they loved me. But eventually she wore me down, and again, remote nunnery, Himalayas, and I performed. And they loved me. And that once only performance went on to me becoming an international performer. I just got the tassels underneath it with that top then. So I was performing. And when I was performing, I found out about this fabulous clothes company through other performers, through audience members.